What to do, what to do, what to do. Mic check 1 2. Great grandson is in the building, and this is we rebuilding we.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod and of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod ML GGCTV.
Killers on the loose. An 18-year-old was shot in Mount Vernon.
The victim just steps away from his own home when he was gunned down. This is the third teenager shot and killed this year in Mount Vernon.
Eyewitness News reporter Anthony Carlo live in Mount Vernon with the latest. Anthony.
Well, Bill Sade, I spoke with Tamani Turner's mother off camera briefly. She needs time to process all of this, but she was intent on sharing photos of her son that were a good representation of him. The mayor of Mount Vernon knows his family. She says Tamani went to school around here, was involved in school activities, and had never been in trouble with the law to the mayor's knowledge. Still, he was shot and killed in his own neighborhood, a place where he was supposed to be safe. Tonight, police urgently look for his killer. Mount Vernon police out Friday looking for tips and leads to find the person responsible for shooting and killing 18-year-old Tamani Turner, leaving neighbors shaken.
Of course we are scared. We have kids, so we are scared. This neighborhood is a nice neighborhood, and we're all devastated.
Natalia Taller lives on Garden Avenue near East 4th Street, where Turner was gunned down Thursday at 12:30 in the afternoon.
A victim had shown up at Montefiore Hospital in New Rochelle with gunshot wounds.
Shot twice in broad daylight.
Everybody needs to step up because this is horrible. We live in a nice neighborhood and it's being run down by violence.
Turner is the third teenager to become a victim of deadly violence in Mount Vernon so far this year. As we previously reported, 14-year-old Zaire Fernandez was shot and killed on South 7th Avenue almost a month ago to this day. An arrest was made in only that case so far.
To see blood on the streets of our children is devastating.
The mayor of Mount Vernon today saying she's been meeting with the school district and engaging community partners to help, but says more police is not the answer.
That's not going to stop violence. If someone is determined to kill someone, then they will, right? But what we have to do is we find out, we have to focus on the prevention.
Right now, to stop this from happening, just last week, the mayor announced an Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement to try and get community members in to address the root causes of violence. This is an ongoing investigation. Police would not comment on whether they believe Turner was the intended target in this shooting, but they are urging you tonight to reach out to Mount Vernon Police with any tips or information that may help them track down Tamani Turner's killer.
1, 2, mic check, 1, 2, mic check. It's great grandson, you know what I'm saying? Now, we building we dig it? So, I'm gonna bring some things that's been happening in my hood, money on the Mount Vernon, you dig? So in between, we're gonna have little intermissions. What to you by Roadblock Fraud, Double M. You heard? Let's go.
Recordings just got back.
Is impacting public safety. The union gave our Tony Aiello a dramatic illustration of the issue involving the recruiting class of 2020. Watch.
Mount Vernon welcomed these 9 officers in May of 2020, fresh out of the academy. 3 years later, 8 of them are gone, joining other departments that pay substantially more. Nicholas Mastrogiorgio is the Mount Vernon PBA president.
A lot of these officers come here and they love the work and they love making a difference in Mount Vernon. So they really want to stay here. It's just that financially it doesn't make sense for them.
Base pay after 5 years for Mount Vernon police is $92,000 versus $133,000.
Hold up, do y'all see that? Mount Vernon, $92,000 a year. Greenberg, $133,000 a year. You know, my grandfather always told me, you could be anything in this world, but just don't be an overseer, which is a cop. You get what I'm saying? Now, you're going to be risking your life for $92,000 a year? No, I don't think so. These dudes bounce. They went to other places, you feel me? But we're going to proceed.
In nearby Greenberg. The Mount Vernon PBA says with almost 90 departures and retirements since 2020, patrol cops here have, on average, less than 2 years experience.
That's a major problem for public safety in Mount Vernon.
To be sure, so-called badge drain is a problem for the NYPD and other departments. Chuck Wexler is an expert with the Police Executive Research Forum.
Hiring is down. Resignations and retirements are up. There's a staffing crisis across the country. So what happens is when a department trains someone, they're more valuable to another department because they can immediately hire them and get them out on the street.
Mount Vernon Mayor Sean Patterson Howard said in a statement, "We are aware that our police department is the lowest paid in Westchester and has been without a contract since 2017. Responding to badge drain requires a multifaceted approach." Cops say a key facet is better pay, and they're hoping the mayor comes to the bargaining table offering a substantial raise. In Mount Vernon, Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
Roadblock.
Mount Vernon in June of last year. We heard from the victim's aunt at a news conference this morning. Eyewitness News reporter Sonia Rincon joins us from Mount Vernon. Sonia?
Good afternoon, Charlene. And Westchester County Crime Stoppers is asking anyone who was in Mount Vernon last summer to think back to the night of June 23rd on South Fulton Avenue. Maybe they saw something, didn't see something. Now is their chance. A revolver of 32-year-old Jeremy Logan at $500 in reward money. The number to call is 800-898-TIPS. Logan was shot multiple times right near a vigil he had helped organize. City officials say someone has to know something or remember something that could be helpful.
This tragedy has become so normalized. I know the street knows, the streets know. But what the streets know and what the streets will say makes the difference between rumor and justice.
Jeremy Logan says he worked to Leonard and was known in this community for his acts of kindness. He was also a dad who never 1-year-old twins. Again, the reward is $7,500, and Westchester County Crime Stoppers chose this case to offer the reward, knowing that there's a good chance that somebody will come forward and help solve this crime. Live in Mount Vernon, Sonia Rincon, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV.
Time this year, a teenager is out more on Thursday's death of a 14-year-old boy.
Security kept media a distance from the colorful memorial at the scene of the shooting, where many are stopping by to remember a 14-year-old boy shot dead in the courtyard of Leicester Towers on Thursday morning.
And it sucks that it's the kids, or, you know, those like around my age, a little bit younger, that have to like experience and go through it, and the families have to be torn apart because of it. So it's a tough thing.
The 14-year-old was not in school 10:30 Thursday when he was shot in the chest. Video taken by a resident shows a figure fleeing from the scene. You can hear someone shouting, "Freeze." The shooting happened just yards from a police substation.
We had officers in the area of 240 South 7th Avenue. They heard what appeared to be gunshots. They responded to the scene.
First responders rushed the victim to Montefiore, Mount Vernon, where he was pronounced dead.
He's a child. It's not even a young man. He's a child.
The mayor got the news while she was in
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV.
It's clear more work needs to be done.
Policing in and of itself cannot stop violence in a community. What are we doing to make sure that we're creating the village that our young people need?
The mayor says a multi-pronged approach to fight violence will ramp up in the days ahead. In the meantime, Mount Vernon police trying to find an alleged killer, asking the public for information that will help bring justice to the family of the slain 14-year-old. In Mount Vernon, Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
Listen, there's a good chance somebody's trying to hack your website right now.
With News 12's Nadia Galindo, who shows us the damage in Mount Vernon.
We're here at the intersection of South 3rd Avenue and South Columbus Avenue, a very busy intersection. And yesterday it was shut down. It was flooded, and it was flooded so much that someone was actually seen jet skiing here at this intersection. And
Yo, Empress, pardon me, yo, Empress, I was going to cover that. Then I was like, you know what? Everybody's covering that. So let me switch it over to something else. You feel me? Let's go. Proceed.
And a day later, you can actually see the debris line that shows you just how much water flooded here. A guy on a jet ski amid floodwaters is actually not as shocking as you might think, says Latoya Anderson.
I was like, ooh, that's hilarious. Because I remember it happened before. And I was like, that's hilarious. That's how high the water is.
But the chronic flooding problem at South Columbus Avenue and South 3rd Avenue is no laughing matter.
It was bad. Something has to be done. Something really has to be done as soon as possible.
Mount Vernon's mayor declared a state of emergency Thursday after 4 to 5 inches of rainwater in less than an hour caused road closures and major flooding, crippling traffic and destroying property. This car was completely filled with water. It's across the street from this auto shop where several cars were also damaged. And floodwater was seen shooting out of manholes. And this terrifying scene captured by Latoya.
At one point, there was a gentleman in top of his vehicle trying to, get help.
Friday, Mount Vernon DPW crews were joined by the state's Office of Emergency Management as the damage was assessed and debris flushed into the sewer system was removed. It's more work added to this department's plate. As we've reported, the city's sewer system is crumbling.
There's a sewage problem. There is. And I just think that they need to take some action as soon as possible. I mean, someone may drown.
In April, Governor Kathy Hochul announced $150 million in state funding would help completely replace the century-old infrastructure. That project will likely take years. In Mount Vernon, Nadia Galindo, News 12.
Block.
In 2005, a violent gang, known as the Goon Squad or the Goonies, centered its operations in the area of the Ebony Gardens projects, located at 7th Avenue and 3rd Street in Mount Vernon, which the gang considered its territory. Historically, Goonies gang members were individuals who had grown up or lived in the Ebony Gardens projects. Typically, these members and associates became affiliated with the gang through family members and friends who were already members. That said, Goonies membership was not limited to residents and former residents of the Ebony Gardens projects. Several other Goonies members and associates grew up outside of Goonies territory, but were able to become members because they hung out in Goonies territory with members of the gang. Goonies members explicitly acknowledged and celebrated their gang affiliation through various means. Members often had tattoos associated with the Goonies and proclaimed their gang affiliation on social media sites by posting photographs and videos of themselves wearing articles of clothing emblazoned with the word Goonies or 073, signifying 7th Avenue and 3rd Street, the location of Ebony Gardens, and tagging photos with comments that incorporate words like GS, Squad, Loopy Goons, and Loopy Gang. Members and associates of the Goonies made money by selling illegal drugs within this territory, such as crack and marijuana. They protected their turf by committing violent acts, including assaults, shootings, attempted murder, and murder, against rival gang members and other individuals who stood in their way. The violence was intended to prevent what Goonies gang members perceived as encroachment into the gang's territory, as well as to assert the gang's dominance over rival gangs and those who struck against the Goonies. Their rivals were the Boss Player Family or BPF and the Get Money Gangsters or GMG. These two crews would sometime work together against the Goonies. The Goonies also feuded with the Gunners Gang and the 70 Boys. The 70s Boys were also known as the Much Better Gang, MBG. The Goonies routinely shared firearms with each other to commit acts of violence. So, we spoke about multiple gangs, but this story is about the Goonies. We will do other stories in the future coming from the perspective of said gangs, and they might feature the Goonies as aggressors or victims. Let's get into some of the crimes that took place as a result of the war. In the space of 6 hours, on March 11, 2012, 3 men were shot and killed on the streets of the city of Mount Vernon. The first shooting victim, a GMG Street Gang associate, was shot while riding his dirt bike in front of numerous witnesses. Subsequently, speculation and rumors abounded regarding the shooter. Initially, there was no credible evidence that either of the next 2 victims had anything to do with the first shooting, other than that they were associated with a rival street gang, the Goonies. Based on those rumors, and in retaliation, 2 men associated with Goonie Street Gang members were, by all accounts, hunted down, shot and killed later that same evening by these defendants. The incident started at about 5 p.m. on March 11, 2012, while it was still daylight. Russell, aka Russell Watkins, a GMG Street Gang associate, was shot and killed on 7th Avenue and Sanford Boulevard while riding his dirt bike. Hereafter, a conspiracy of members of GMG was formed to retaliate against people associated with the Goonies. At approximately 8:51 p.m., Stephon Ramsey, after leaving his house at 20 Cooley Place, was shot as he attempted to get into a car. Arriving police observed Ramsey lying face down in a pool of blood, with an apparent gunshot wound to the back of his head and another to the back of his right thigh. Ramsey was taken by EMS to Jacobi Medical Center in the Bronx, where he died 8 days later. At approximately 11:13 p.m., Cleveland Baxter was shot after he left a friend's house on Grandview Avenue. Police were summoned and on arriving, observed a BMW that had crashed into another vehicle. Cleveland Baxter was observed unresponsive in the driver's seat. Baxter was taken to Mount Vernon Hospital where he was pronounced dead at 12:40 a.m. Baxter's autopsy resulted in the removal of 6 spent rounds from his body. The gun used by the Goonies to shoot and kill Baxter was apparently sold after the shooting and recovered in the Bronx by the NY.
I want to give a big shout out to Word on the Street. This is where this content has come from. Go subscribe to them also. You know what I said? Like I said, this is great grandson of We Rebuilding We. Let's proceed.
YPD from an individual who had no connection to the shootings. As with all recovered illegal handguns, it was entered in the ballistics identification system, where the gun's ballistic profile matched that of the Baxter shooting gun. More than a year and a half of investigation, 3 men were indicted on murder charges, and a 4th on conspiracy charges in state Supreme Court in White Plains. The Watkins killing remained under investigation. The Westchester County District Attorney said that the targeting of the gangs and the capture of the men had led to a 75% reduction in gun murders in Mount Vernon from 2012 to 2013. In court, the men were assigned lawyers and each pleaded not guilty. They were identified as Yeo, 26, Travy, 24, and Jay, 30. All 3 were imprisoned for a variety of crimes. The 4th, Markey, 24, was accused of being the triggerman in the Baxter murder. Much of the evidence was gathered through wiretap that was put in place after an earlier shooting. Tell them to find him, read one text message sent by Jay to Markey after the killings of Ramsey and Watkins. This was taken as an apparent request for Markey to then ask Yeo to find a Goonie to shoot, possibly Baxter, who was suspected by the men of setting up Watkins' killing. Other wiretaps captured conversations. The district attorney said it was just so bone-chilling to hear them talk about hunting down people and killing them in cold blood. In the afternoon of September 22, 2014, a man named Dean Daniels, aka Dazo, was murdered. The Goonies associate shot Daniels twice in the vicinity of Park Avenue in Mount Vernon, before running back to the vehicle to flee the scene. Daniels died as a result of the gunshot wounds. 3 men were charged with the murder: Keltz, Trigga, and Aaron Miltz. Before we get into the specifics, let's do a little profiling. As for Keltz, he'd been gang banging for a while. Keltz has been a member of the Goonies since at least 2007. As a member of the Goonies, Keltz participated in numerous different crimes in furtherance of the gang. For example, Keltz participated in fraud schemes such as manufacturing fake gift cards to use at retail establishments, thereby stealing goods from the businesses. While the Goonies do not have a formal or rigid hierarchical structure, certain members have increased clout and leadership roles due to the length of their tenure and/or their willingness to take the lead in perpetrating acts of violence on behalf of the Goonies. Keltz was one such member. Keltz, who had seniority in the gang, was willing to engage in acts of violence himself. He had been convicted of criminal trespass, reckless endangerment, drug offenses, and assault. He had a 2009 assault conviction, resulting from a shooting he committed on June 2, 2008. In that situation, he fired at least 3 shots, hitting his victim. Trigger was another Goonie member. His criminal history is long, resulting in 6 criminal history points. In 2000 he was arrested and then convicted of robbery in the 2nd degree. Approximately 1 year later, he was again arrested and convicted of attempted robbery in the 2nd degree, for which he was sentenced to 1 year imprisonment. In 2001 he was involved in robberies, which were violent. Trigger and his co-conspirators beat a woman while attempting to steal her purse. That same day, Trigger and others beat a man unconscious and then stole his belongings. In 2007 Trigger was convicted of selling crack and sentenced to 3 years as imprisonment. Trigger made a poor adjustment to supervision and twice had his parole revoked. Then on 2 separate dates in June 2009, Trigger was convicted of assault in the 3rd degree, during which Trigger hit the victims. Let's get into what led up to the murder of Dean Daniels, also known as Dazo. On the night of September 20th to 21st, 2014, Earn Mills, who was another member, younger than Trigger and Keltz, had his vehicle stolen at gunpoint by Dazo. Afterwards Earn Mills drove to meet Trigger. Upon hearing what happened, Trigger pointed out that this was not the first time Daniels had done something to Earn Mills, and that Earn Mills needed to protect his reputation. Trigger told Earn Mills that Trigger could retaliate against Daniels on Earn Mills' behalf, but such action would not solve the problem of Daniels and others perceiving Earn Mills as weak and continuing to rob him. Trigger told Earn Mills that Earn Mills would have to retaliate himself if Earn Mills no longer wanted to be perceived as weak. The same night, Earn Mills also told Keltz about the carjacking, and Keltz responded similarly, that Earn Mills should retaliate against Daniels, because Daniels was making all of them look bad. On September 22, 2014, Earn Mills, Trigger, Keltz, and another Goonies associate were in a car together when they spotted Daniels on the street in Mount Vernon. Trigger and Keltz reiterated that Earn Mills needed to confront Daniels, and if Daniels did not return Earn Mills' car keys, Earn Mills needed to retaliate. The Goonies associate advised that he had a gun that Earn Mills could use. Earn Mills exited the car with the other Goonies associate and the gun, while Keltz and Trigger stayed behind in the vehicle. Earn Mills approached Daniels on the street and demanded the keys to Earn Mills' car. When Daniels refused, Earn Mills shot Daniels twice, killing him. Earn Mills and the other Goonies associate fled back to the car in which Trigger and Keltz were waiting. Keltz drove the 4 of them away from the scene to New Rochelle.
Based on a true story, y'all. You feel me? Like I said, I'm gonna come with stories, then gonna have a little
The following year would be deadly as well, not before the Goonies would take.
Like I said, I'll be showing you some things, some stories that happened based on true stories. Like I said, then I'm gonna have my little intermissions in between. You feel me? So let's go proceed.
Take a hit though.
Shout out to the chat. You know what I'm saying? Your Sonny Blanco salute, Empress Cat salute. You get what I'm saying? G Max, shout it out. Like how my nigga Sonny Blanco say, man. You know what I'm saying? But what it do, my family? We up in here, man. You know what I mean? This is a little thing going on that happened some years ago with the Goonies and the Billy Bloods and the GMG and the 70 Boys, you know, the Gunners. It was like a big thing that was going on, man. Little homies were dropping. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm going to proceed, let y'all see what's good. Let's go.
At about 2:50 a.m. August 9, 2015, Keltz was in the vicinity of 523 South Fulton Avenue in Mount Vernon. A gunman from a rival gang, Mark, shot Keltz. City police officers who were on patrol at the time of the shooting heard multiple gunshots coming from the area. Police were then notified by Mount Vernon Hospital personnel that Keltz was at the hospital. They learned that Keltz had been shot 7 times, including once in the head. Surveillance video from a nearby business was part of the evidence in this case. 8 months after the murder of Dean Dazo Daniel, there was a robbery that took place. On or about April 21, 2015, Trigger and an unindicted co-conspirator, CC, attempted to rob an individual known as Black, whom they believed possessed cigarettes, and proceeds from the sale of cigarettes that traveled in interstate commerce. Both Trigger and CC were armed with firearms. Black lived at a first-floor apartment in Harlem, in a residential building. Until about early 2015, Black regularly sold untaxed cigarettes procured from out of state out of the apartment. The brands.
For the record, I gotta say this because people be getting it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Mount Vernon, New York is part of the tri-state, okay? We are 3 minutes from Yonkers. We are 12 minutes from Harlem. We are 15 minutes from Queens. We are 20 minutes from Brooklyn. We are 6 minutes from New Jersey. We are 8 minutes to 12 minutes to CT. You feel what I'm saying? Money earning Mount Vernon, man. That's where I'm born and raised, man. I was also raised in Harlem, Queens, Brooklyn, but this is where I was born at. My family lived in the boroughs. You feel what I'm saying? Mount Vernon is around all the highways and all the trains. You get what I'm saying? This was the place where the hustlers back in the days used to move to, like Guy Fisher, Nicky Barnes, et cetera, et cetera. Malcolm X also lived here in Mount Vernon. The house is still there that Malcolm X owned, where he had his mother lived in, right there on 5th Street. You feel what I'm saying? There's some history of the city where I'm from. And I'm going to present it to y'all like nobody else did. You feel me? This great grandson of We Rebuilding, We Proceed.
Of cigarettes Black sold were Newport and Marlboro, and they were stamped with a Virginia or Georgia state tax stamp. On or about April 21, 2015, at approximately 10 a.m., Black and another individual, victim 2, were standing in the hallway of the apartment. A third individual, victim 3, and victim 3's 2-year-old toddler, victim 4, were in the apartment. Trigga and CC approached Black and victim 2, and both displayed firearms. CC demanded that Black.
And for the record, we are 2 minutes where I'm from, 1 to 2 minutes from the Bronx. You feel me? Mount Vernon, New York.
Black and victim 2 go into the apartment and give Trigga and CC money and cigarettes. Black and victim 2 then began to struggle with Trigga and CC. Black struggled with Trigga, and victim 2 struggled with CC. CC overcame victim 2 and entered the apartment, encountering victims 3 and 4. CC pointed the firearm at victim 3 and demanded victim 3 turn over the cigarettes and money. CC had a roll of brown tape and used a kitchen knife from the apartment to cut a piece off, and CC placed the tape over victim 3's mouth. Black continued to struggle with Trigga, and CC took the tape off of victim 3, exited the apartment and began again to struggle with victim 2. During the struggle, Trigga pistol whipped Black in the head with a firearm and Black sustained injuries to his face and hands. Also during the struggle, a wall was damaged from the impact of Trigga and Black's bodies. Not surprisingly, during the struggles, one of the firearms carried by the robbers went off and Trigga and CC fled, leaving their baseball caps behind. Victim 3 saw one of the robbers, Trigga, bleeding from the leg. Trigga left a trail of blood in the doorway of the apartment and down the hall. At approximately noon that same day, Trigga checked himself into the emergency room at Lincoln Hospital in Bronx, New York, with a gunshot wound to the left leg. Black was transported to another hospital by ambulance for medical treatment for cuts and scrapes to Black's face, head, mouth and hands, a dislocated shoulder and an injured knee. Victim 2 was also transported to the hospital, where victim 2 received treatment for a fractured finger and tendon damage. The following day, on or about April 22, 2015, Trigga was read his Miranda rights and agreed, both orally and in writing, to speak with a special agent. He informed the agent, in sum and substance, of how the robber went down, and that prior to the attempted robbery, he had purchased cigarettes from Black. That was the Harlem robbery, so let's get back to Mount Vernon. In September 2015, tensions between the Goonies and the 70 Boys, also known as the Much Better Gang, MBG, were running high as a result of multiple recent incidents of violence, including the shooting of Kelts a year prior by Mark. The Goonies would soon get back. Trigga had instructed another Goonies member to keep an eye out for the leader of MBG. Midday on September 15, 2015, Trigga received information that the victim was meeting with his parole officer in New Rochelle. Kelts and Trigga drove towards the victim and began following the victim, as the victim was driving away from the parole office. You probably thought Kelts was dead, but nah, he survived the 2014 shooting. Anyway, the two were trailing the victim, and when the victim came to a stop at a stop sign outside a daycare center on Clinton Avenue in New Rochelle, Kelts and Trigga pulled up alongside the victim in their own vehicle. Kelts was behind the wheel, and Trigga fired multiple shots at the victim, hitting the victim multiple times. The victim was taken to the hospital and required extensive medical treatment, but survived. After committing the attempted murder of the victim, Keltz and Trigger drove away, but their vehicle was spotted by law enforcement. Law enforcement attempted to stop the vehicle being driven by Keltz, but Keltz and Trigger sped away. As law enforcement were following the vehicle, it slowed down momentarily, and Trigger jumped out and attempted to flee on foot. Law enforcement chased down Trigger and recovered a gun in a backpack Trigger was carrying. At the time, Keltz managed to evade law enforcement.
Salute to my sister Rain that stepped in the building. Word up. But yo, Sonny, you know how it go, bro? It's everywhere. It's everywhere, King. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I'm going to present some joints. And then I'm going to have little intermissions. You know what I'm saying? If you go to my playlist, I have a web series that's there called Mr. Mister. Mr. You get what I'm saying? Great web series. You get what I'm saying? It made it to the movie theater. You feel what I'm saying? So if you go to my playlist and you see Mr. Web Series, go check that out, y'all. But yo, we're gonna have a little quick intermission. This is great grandson of We Rebuilding We. And this is the Mr. Intro.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV.
Was fatally stabbed, and a water department worker is now charged with manslaughter and claiming self-defense. Tonight, we have the exclusive video of the fatal confrontation. CBS 2's Tony Aiello reports.
A memorial marks the spot on East 3rd Street where 35-year-old Jenny Brown was fatally stabbed. And surveillance video shows the moments leading up to the Friday afternoon violence. 43-year-old Carlton Naughton, a city water department worker, sees Brown approaching with a knife and pulls out one of his own. Brown swings at Naughton, cutting his face. Naughton swings back and then follows Brown to the sidewalk. Mount Vernon police say Naughton stabbed Brown in the chest several times. The men continued to struggle before giving up, and Naughton walked back to his city truck. Brown, a DPW worker, got on a scooter, went around the corner, and collapsed. He later died at this local hospital. Monday in court, Naughton's legal team asserted he was acting in self-defense. Naughton's defense attorney says Brown, the victim, was, quote, stalking a member of Naughton's family, which had filed many complaints about Brown with Mount Vernon police. While video shows the victim took the first swing, the prosecutor says Brown was, quote, in retreat and had dropped his knife when he was fatally stabbed, justifying a manslaughter charge. I showed the video to attorney Troy Smith, a former prosecutor.
Retreating would mean that he's moving far away. This is the continuation of the incident that was going on. The prosecution has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he wasn't acting in self-defense. That's a very heavy burden for the prosecution to overcome.
Monday, a judge set bail for Naughton at $25,000. A GoFundMe campaign is raising money for Brown's funeral and his young son. In Mount Vernon, Tony Aiello, CBS 2 News.
In a Facebook post, Mount Vernon's mayor called the violence senseless and said cooler minds should prevail.
This is
in
Channel
settling
of
disputes.
Rebuilding, another production
Join
by
large-scale
Road
battles
Block
with
Prod
militant-
MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Road Block Prod MM of GGCTV. Block.
Kayla Green, who was killed at Vernon boys basketball team. News 12's Darius Radzius is there on Harper Avenue in the Bronx for us tonight. Darius.
Well, there are a lot of heavy hearts here. Many are still grieving. Friends and family in the community are gathered here in front of Kayla Green's father's home. There's people now making speeches here in front of photos of Kayla that's hanging above lit candles.
I don't know what it feels like to lose your child.
Many hearts broken and teary eyes here in front of the father's home of 16-year-old Kayla Green, who was killed a week earlier. Jada Palmer remembers her from when they were on the dance team together.
I remember she came, she was full of energy, she was ready to go.
She was also a cheerleader at Mount Vernon High School, and she was celebrating the basketball team's championship victory at a parade when she was fatally stabbed. Vivian Robinson from the Bronx lives nearby and knew Kayla.
She was a good honor roll student and a cheerleader. She didn't deserve this, and she's a good kid.
Palmer says this is a huge loss, and Kayla touched so many lives in her short life.
It's heartbreaking because nobody ever wants to. We shouldn't be here for this reason. This shouldn't be the reason why everybody's gathering, why the whole city's coming out. Sorry.
Robinson says she's been devastated and wanted to be here to support Kayla's father.
She's gone, and all we can do is pray for them and see that everything is going smoothly, you know? But it's not a good feeling.
Elisa's hometown was Mount Vernon. And tonight the city is deeply feeling the loss of a cherished native daughter.
CBS 2's Tony Aiello reports Elise loved her community and loved her right back.
She was a top student at Mount Vernon High School and a role model who balanced a love for the arts with the science of weather.
I always tell people Mount Vernon produced the coolest nerds you'll ever want to meet. And I think Lisa was, definitely a proud, cool nerd, articulate, educated.
Mayor Sean Patterson Howard and City Council member Lisa A. Copeland considered Elise Finch something of a little sister. Both knew her for more than 40 years. Elise's Mount Vernon roots ran very deep. Her family here for multiple generations. Her mother was an educator. Her father owned a store here on 4th Avenue. Jimmy Finch was the last Republican elected to the city council. His guidance and the example of a strong mother and older sister, no doubt shaping Elise into the woman she became.
The way that Papa Finch and Mama Finch connect with people, you could see that in Elise and Kia. any type of person, anybody. It didn't matter. They could connect with anybody.
Elise stayed connected in Mount Vernon, participating in the Jack and Jill program to help children build leadership skills and character.
Even though her schedule was busy, when I needed something, if I called on her, she was always willing to jump in and assist. And it was always appreciated. She always did it with a smile. So I smile as I remember just, the energy that she brought anytime she was around.
For husband Greg Enriquez and daughter Grace, the mayor of Mount Vernon has this message.
It's not going to be easy growing up without her mom, but we will be there to support Greg. We will be there to support Grace. They just have a very deep and rich tribe of people who will
Mount
surround
Vernon
them,
nights
and that's
all
what we're going to
day.
do.
And the Mount Vernon mayor told Tony the city is already considering ways to commemorate Elise, honoring her life and impact. And as her neighbor in Mount Vernon, I can tell you, we are all feeling the pain there. She did so much.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV.
Zaire Fernandez. He died Thursday morning after being shot in the courtyard of Leicester Towers. Video taken by a resident shows someone fleeing from the scene. It's not clear what led to the shooting, but that gunman is still on the run.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
Part of self, had to get the little one ready. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to proceed and do what I got to do. Like I said, I apologize. You know what I mean? Had to switch up and throw everything in with the loops and everything while I was handling the business, you know, daddy duties, you feel me? But we're going to proceed, man.
In Mount Vernon. This morning, a couple was found dead inside their home in what police now say was probably a murder-suicide. As CBS 2's Astrid Martinez reports, the couple's 3 young daughters were home at the time.
The couple lived in this home behind me for more than 4 years. Tonight, the mayor of Mount Vernon is telling me police believe this was a murder-suicide. Hearts are weeping in this quiet Mount Vernon community.
It's sad once I found out that it was a couple and both of them dead. 3 kids involved. That's really sad.
Early Sunday morning, police found a couple dead in their home in an apparent murder-suicide. The couple has not been identified at this time. Police say they were found with apparent gunshot wounds. Their 3 young daughters were inside the house at the time of the shooting. They were unharmed.
We've been talking about mass shootings and regular shootings all around the country, and to be awakened by a phone call from my chief of police, I knew that it was not good news. And to understand, you know, how the incident unfolded, it was just very heartbreaking.
Neighbors say the family kept to themselves.
Well, the guy was a quiet guy. His wife was quiet.
The mayor tells me so far records don't show any calls coming from the home.
Our detective division did go back in our records, and we found no information, no calls to the home for domestic violence. So we're still talking with family and friends to get more background.
That's horrible. I mean, because that's going to be something that's going to last with them probably a lifetime in some way, form. So it's horrible that the kids had to go through that.
The children are now with family members. Now, this shooting is still under investigation. The mayor tells me that right now they're providing the family and the children with mental health resources. In Mount Vernon, Astrid Martinez, CBS News, New York.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
Police have launched.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
Scott has been charged with second-degree murder. Police say the boy's mother came home from work Monday night at the Esplanade Gardens apartments and found her son unconscious. He was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Detectives were seen carrying bags marked evidence from the apartment building. No word yet on the cause of death.
Yo, it's just crazy about city, you know what I mean? Like anywhere else, you know, you're having a lot of things going on, man. No dudes raping girls, you know, home invasions, murder, shootouts, gang violence, prostitution, corruption in City Hall. You know, it's like anywhere else, man. Real talk. Speaking real talk, man, it's like anywhere else, B. But I'm going to proceed and give you more content. This is great grandson of We Rebuilding We.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
Yeah, we know her name was Shamoya McKenzie. They say he is a gun-toting gang member who fled Mount Vernon 2.5 weeks ago after that highly publicized stray bullet shooting, and then returned to familiar territory in the face of an intensifying manhunt. The top FBI man in New York turned and spoke to his alleged victim's mother in announcing formally the arrest. Listen.
Nadine, I hope hearing that an arrest has been made today offers some sort of solace to your family, but I know it won't bring your daughter back. I am terribly sorry for your loss.
The assistant FBI director says agents from 3 different field offices helped bring in 21-year-old David Hardy, now held without bail in the New Year's Eve stray bullet killing of Shamoya McKenzie. She's the 13-year-old budding basketball star and honor student killed while Hardy was allegedly trying to gun down another man at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Mount Vernon cops tell me it's gang-related, that they knew who they were looking for but needed federal help to flush him out.
We had a target, and we arrested.
What I'm showing you is like stuff that happened through mayor after mayor after mayor, governor after governor. You feel what I'm saying? It just don't stop. If you look at it, man, it's like it's senseless murders that brothers and sisters could have talked it out. You know what I mean? And it's so sad. It's young kids younger than me. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm gonna proceed.
The target.
Now, was he being pursued out of state? Did he flee back to Mount Vernon?
Yes.
Roughly 100 cops and FBI agents tracked Hardy to North Carolina and back. News of the arrest brought people to their feet at an MLK Day event Monday evening. The victim's mother remains bitter about neighbors who initially balked at helping cops identify the shooter.
It's not easy. It is not easy, although they caught him. And, you know, it hurt me that people who saw didn't come forward right away to help the police.
Investigators brought heavy pressure to bear on the street. The new Westchester DA and the Mount Vernon mayor say the case has hit a nerve.
I'm a Mount Vernon resident. I'm born and raised here. Went to Mount Vernon High School. This is my town.
That's something that we're not tolerating no more. And that's why I said this is the new Mount Vernon and we're moving forward.
The suspect's attorney says police have no forensics.
I don't believe that there's any physical evidence in this case linking Mr. Hardy to this particular crime.
And Hardy's attorney also points out there was tremendous pressure to make an arrest. He likened it to the Central Park jogger case, and he called this a possible rush to judgment. Hardy will be back in court here on February 2nd. The formal charges are second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon.
Outside, yes, it's a storm outside. Yes, it is. It's a storm outside. You can run, but you can't hide. It's a storm outside, yes it is. When the storm comes, I will never be scared. I will never be scared. I will never be scared. Be scared. That's what they all say. The storm comes. I am very prepared. I am very prepared. I am very prepared. That's what they all say. There's trouble. Yo, there's trouble in the streets that we are from. Shorty hustles. I said he hustles. And he thinks that he's the one. They see him bubble. You see them struggle. They took his life with the next man's gun. Jealousy wouldn't listen. They wouldn't listen. And now two mothers lost hope for their sons in the storm. It's a storm outside. Yes, it is. It's a storm outside. You can run, but you can't hide. It's a storm outside. Yes, it is. The storm comes. I would never be scared. I would never be scared. I would never be scared. Be scared. That's what they all say. The storm comes. I am very prepared. I am very prepared.
This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding.
Killed in that city after a weekend of violence.
News 12's Lisa LaRocca is there with what we know this morning. Lisa, good morning.
Yeah, good morning to you, Amy. Lisa, good morning, everyone. Yeah, really rough weekend here in Mount Vernon. And the one death that occurred happened in this taxi stand. Let me get out of the way and show you. You can see there's some candles over there lit right there, right inside this taxi business here on East 3rd Street. But good news is police have made an arrest. Now, this comes off a weekend where there were 5 shootings and 2 stabbings. Shortly before 11 o'clock on Friday, when police were called here to the New Line taxi for a report of a man stabbed, investigators say the victim, a man from New Rochelle, was rushed to Montefiore Mount Vernon Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police say it appears the victim had been involved in some sort of altercation with another man in the rear of the taxi stand. The fight turned physical and ultimately fatal. Now, we're again told police did make an arrest in the stabbing. Reports are the person has been charged with first-degree manslaughter at this point. Now, there were also 4 separate shootings in the city on the same night of the stabbing. All the violence occurred within about a 5-block area of each other. Police sources tell us people were hit in those shootings, but all suffered non-life-threatening injuries. And then there were shots fired over on Union Avenue Sunday morning. No one was hit there, just a car was struck. In the meantime, city leaders say they are going after more than just the criminals to try to stop the violence.
We're coming for those who harbor criminals, who allow them to hang out in their bodegas and their barbershops and their car repair shops and in their clubs.
So police are still investigating the shootings, the stabbings, and of course, they're asking for the public's help. They're saying if anybody has any information, saw anything, to please reach out. We're in Mount Vernon. Let's go back to the studio.
This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of Rebuilding, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
at the Mansion Club in Mount Vernon. Police are investigating a deadly nightclub shooting in Westchester County. The gunfire broke out early this morning at the Mansion Club in Mount Vernon as many were celebrating on Christmas. The owner of the club, O'Neill Bandu, was killed by the gunfire. 4 others were injured. Police say the gunman had been kicked out of the club earlier, then returned and started shooting.
I heard like about maybe 5 rounds. That startled me out of my sleep.
Police and club workers tackled the suspect, a 36-year-old Bronx man. Mount Vernon's mayor says the suspect was out on bail on a New York City charge of attempted murder.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM of GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Prod MM.
A bullet meant for a suspect hit him instead. It happened where it has new information on the victim. The man shot by police died overnight. He was running an errand when a bullet meant for a suspect hit him instead. It happened in the middle of an NYPD undercover operation in Mount Vernon. CBS 2's Steve Langsford has new information on the victim from Westchester County.
61-year-old Felix Kumi was walking here just 4 blocks from his home Friday afternoon when he was shot and killed accidentally by an undercover NYPD officer in a gun buy and bust operation that went horribly wrong.
Beekman Avenue in Mount Vernon Friday, the chaotic scene where one of 2 suspects inside an undercover officer's car robbed the cop of $2,200.
There was some discussion, and a gun is put to our undercover's head.
The gun, later determined to be a fake, led to shots fired from the officer, 2 bullets hitting innocent bystander Felix Kumi, who died around midnight.
And I wanted to just reach out to her. What daddy's doing? I said, you haven't heard Kenneth? I said, no, he passed away at 12:30.
Grieving friends and congregants from the nearby Kingdom Hall, where the victim worshipped, attempted to comfort the man's family the day after.
He's so wonderful. It's not fair. Not fair that it's just not fair.
He was the best, just the best. He was like my second father. You couldn't ask for a better man.
NYPD Commissioner Bill Bratton releasing a statement that reads in part, quote, I wish to express my profound sorrow and sympathy to the family of Felix Kumi. Mr. Kumi was blameless, and I tendered the department's support and service in their grief.
There's no words. I can't imagine what it feels like to wake up one day and your father is gone.
One of the suspects wounded in the gunfire. The other fled but was later captured. Felix Kumi was a school bus driver for First Student of Mount Vernon for 20 years. The company issuing a statement that reads in part, quote, he was an exceptional employee and was very well liked by his peers. Our thoughts and prayers go out to his family.
Felix Kumi leaves behind his wife, 2 daughters, and a son. In Mount Vernon, Steve Langford, CBS 2 News.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV. This is Channel of We Rebuilding We.
What it do, y'all? What it do? This is great grandson of We Rebuilding We.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.
About to chat with the AI real quick to give y'all the concept and the meaning of we. You feel me? Please listen close. As the AI talk to you and give you the concept. Peace, love.
The concept of We Rebuilding We encompasses a profound and multifaceted meaning that extends beyond mere physical reconstruction. Rebuilding signifies the restoration, renewal, and revitalization of various aspects of life, be it on an individual, communal, or societal level. At its core, rebuilding conveys the idea of overcoming adversity and bouncing back from setbacks or challenges. It encompasses the resilience and determination required to navigate through difficult circumstances and emerge stronger on the other side. Rebuilding implies an acknowledgement of the past while embracing the opportunity for growth and positive transformation. On an individual level, rebuilding often involves personal growth, healing, and self-discovery. It can occur after a personal loss, a career setback, or a period of emotional turmoil. Rebuilding allows individuals to reassess their values, goals, and priorities, and to chart a new path that aligns with their true selves. It entails learning from past experiences, embracing change, and cultivating a sense of empowerment. Communities and societies also experience the need for rebuilding in the face of adversity or disaster. Natural disasters, social conflicts, or economic downturns can leave communities in a state of disarray. Rebuilding in this context involves the physical reconstruction of infrastructure and homes, but it goes beyond that. It encompasses the restoration of social bonds, the revitalization of local economies, and the strengthening of community cohesion. Rebuilding communities involves collaborative efforts, resilience, and a shared vision for a better future. Moreover, rebuilding can extend to societal structures and institutions. It can signify a collective effort to address systemic issues, promote social justice, and create a more inclusive and equitable society. Rebuilding societies involves re-evaluating existing norms, policies, and systems, and working towards positive change that benefits all members of society. Ultimately, the meaning of rebuilding lies in the opportunity for growth, renewal, and transformation. It symbolizes the human capacity to rise above adversity, find hope in the face of despair, and build a better future. Whether on an individual, communal, or societal level, rebuilding embodies resilience, determination, and the belief in a brighter tomorrow.
This is Channel of We Rebuilding We, another production by Roadblock Pod ML GGCTV.